You are now tuned in to Dusty Vision Radio.
The 1990s had some great movie soundtracks, specifically when it comes to hip-hop and R&B. If a good hood movie was released back then, it was usually followed up by a great music soundtrack full of great features. Off top, some of my favorite soundtracks of that time are Set It Off, Juice. Juice had a classic soundtrack. Menace to Society, Above the Rim, and probably my all-time favorite soundtrack, Murder Was the Case. Murder Was the Case featured artists such as Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, The Dogg Pound, DJ Quick, and many others. One of the more popular songs on the album featured an artist by the name of Sam SNEED. The song is called Recognize. At the time, I had no idea who Sam SNEED was. It wasn't until later in life, with the advent of YouTube and other platforms, that I got to know more about Sam SNEED, his role at Death Row Records, and the infamous beatdown in The Office. How did it get to that point? Well, to understand that, we have to understand Death Row Records at the time. Death Row, by all accounts, was crazy back then. Many Death Row artists have admitted to always packing weapons with them when they went to Death Row Studios because anything could happen at any time. Think about this for a second. Death Row was full of Crips and Bloods. So in that sense alone, it wasn't uncommon for situations to pop off at any given time. People also had their own cliques up at Death Row. It was around this time that Dr. Dre was really not feeling a lot of the activities going on at Death Row. From what I understand at the time, he was already beefing with Tupac behind the scenes, so there was a lot of tension in the air. Let's talk about Sam SNEED and his beginning and ending at Death Row. But before we do, please hit that like button, and if this is the first time you are joining my channel, please hit that subscribe button. From what I understand, Sam SNEED was brought into Death Row by Dr. Dre. He was first heard on Snoop Dogg's album saying his popular catchphrase, "I'm Sam SNEED, you better recognize." He also co-produced Keep Their Heads Ringing and Natural Born Killers alongside Dr. Dre. He even recorded a full album at Death Row, but it was never released. The tension between Sam SNEED and other Death Row personnel started almost immediately. According to some, certain producers and artists didn't like Sam SNEED. Some would say this was due to jealousy, that he was Dre's boy, or because Sam SNEED may have allegedly been feeling himself and trying to run things when Dre wasn't around. Another reason that some Death Row artists weren't allegedly feeling Sam SNEED is when Death Row artists asked him for beats, he would try to charge them. That was not going on at Death Row at that time. Death Row artists and producers all worked together without one charging the other. So what led up to Sam SNEED getting whooped in the Death Row offices? Story goes that Sam SNEED released a music video for one of his songs, and Suge Knight was extremely upset that there was no one from the West Coast in the video. More specifically, no one from Death Row was being represented. The video was recorded on the East Coast, and at this time, West Coast and East Coast were beefing heavy, mainly due to the back and forth shots, sometime literally, between Tupac and Biggie Smalls. This, along with everything else I mentioned earlier, was the last straw. The day of the beating, Suge called a meeting with all Death Row artists, including Sam SNEED. Lady of Rage, Tupac, everyone was allegedly there. Suge Knight then put on Sam SNEED's video on a projector and started asking questions as to why there was no West Coast representation. why there was no one from Death Row in the video, why he was supposedly charging other Death Row artists for beats, why he was walking around like his shit don't stink.
Think you better recognize.
Story has it that Tupac kept the conversation going and ignited the fire, yelling out, "Why don't you have any West Coast artists in your video, Sam?" Yelling at him, grilling him, letting him know how displeased he was with this. According to people who were there, Sam SNEED then said something to the effect of, "I knew I should have left with Dr. Dre."
Think you better recognize.
Keep in mind, this is around the time Dre was leaving Death Row, and Sam SNEED was Dre's #1 boy. So needless to say, the room wasn't filling that statement. And that is the point Sam SNEED got pause put on him. Pac was the one who was said to have orchestrated the beatdown, which included several members of his crew, the Outlaws. By all accounts, Sam SNEED was a nice guy who didn't deserve this. Thankfully, after his time at Death Row, Sam SNEED went on to have a successful career, producing for the likes of Jay-Z, Scarface, and 50 Cent. Please hit that like button before you head out, and if this is your first time visiting the channel and you like what you heard, please hit that subscribe button. I'm going to leave you with a clip of an interview I did a few years ago with rapper K Solo, who is responsible for bringing Sam SNEED to Death Row. The clip to the full interview is in the description if you want to check it out. Peace.
Think you better recognize.
You know what I'm saying? Because when I was over there at Death Row, it wasn't cool to be over there.
Yeah, you were there in the thick of shit. Tell me about that.
I went there in the thick of shit.
How did that come about?
Well, I made a call because I seen that I wasn't really doing good over here with these guys. I knew it was like time to go. And I didn't want to fight my brothers. I just wanted them to clear, so let me go over here. They was yelling, "Fuck you, nigga, get your ass over there." And I took my ass over to the West Coast for a little while. But, it was a good thing, like something that we all needed, you know what I'm saying? Because I took Sam SNEED over there.
Yeah.
He was doing, we put black exploitation in perspective over there. I mean, that's what we do. We master that. Yeah. We master that. We grew up in that era, so and Dre know that shit too. Dre been playing funk music his whole life. Yeah. So when you throw Isaac K sample on, niggas know what it is. But like I was saying, that's the shit that made the East Coast famous. Zap and all that shit made the West Coast famous.
Yeah.
So we was ahead of that black exploitation movement. Afro, we was ahead of that shit. So, we knew to get Pam Grier for the video. We knew to do the fucking Isaac K's and the Curtis Mayfield in them records. We built the landscape for Silky Slim and them to do what they do with that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because we was those niggas that, that was our type of shit. That's all we knew.
How'd you link up with Suge?
I didn't link up with him. I linked up with Dre. I got, the only thing with that was him having a partner. You're with him by default. But I never was with, Suge. I was with Dre.
Gotcha.
And when it got heavy for Dre, it was a bad situation for everybody because everybody was waiting for Dre to pull it off. And I didn't think Suge knew. I didn't think he was that slow to the point where he was thinking he could take a person's label, a person that built it, and didn't think he was going to be able to do it again.
Yeah.
I knew he was going to be able to do it again, you know what I'm saying? And I'm saying to myself, did he really think he couldn't do it? What shocked me. That he was boasting, I took the whole, I'm saying to myself, do you realize this guy he's sonically correct, the way and I guess he didn't understand that.
So you were there were you there after Dre left?
No, I left after Dre. In fact, I was the last one. Probably, when Dre left, I left first. Right after Dre left, I left.
Okay, gotcha.
And then Sam SNEED got in his shit over there with them because Sam SNEED was still there.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I had left already. Yeah, I had left already. But they only did that because Sam SNEED was a great student of Dr. Dre and he knew shit.
When they beat him up in the studio, apparently.
Yeah, they wouldn't have did that shit if it, you know what I'm saying? They wouldn't have did that shit on the terms, but they thinking that this is how they do their thing, you know what I'm saying? And it didn't work. Sam SNEED's still doing good, you know what I'm saying? He still got some couple of things that he's working on. He still works with Dr. Dre. He got a great relationship with Dre. So Sam ain't lose nothing.